The rain in this city didn't just wash the streets clean, it drowned secrets. It turned the neon lights of the downtown district into bleeding smears of color on the wet pavement. I stood under the awning of a rundown convenience store, clutching the handle of a battered umbrella with one hand and gripping the small, cold hands of my 3-year-old sons with the other. Leo and Liam, my world, my curse, and the living proof of the biggest mistake I had ever made. "Mama, I am cold," Liam whispered, pressing his face into my coat. He was the smaller of the two, sensitive and sweet, unlike his brother, who was currently scanning the street with the intensity of a hawk. "I know, baby," I said softly, kneeling down to adjust his scarf. "Just a little longer. We have to get the medicine." My heart hammered against my ribs like a trapped bird. It wasn't just the chill of the autumn wind that made me shiver. It was fear. Pure, unadulterated terror that had lived in my veins for 4 years. We were standing on the edge of the North District, the territory that belonged to him 4 years ago. I had been a foolish boy sold off by a gambling-addicted father to pay a debt. 4 years ago, I had become the contracted wife of Luca Moretti. The name alone sent shivers down the spines of everyone in the Underworld. The Alpha King, the ruthless Don, the man who destroyed cities with a snap of his fingers. I remembered the way he used to look at me. Those cold, dark eyes that could strip a man bare. He wasn't just cruel to his enemies, he was demanding of everyone. But for a few months, I had thought I saw something else. Something soft beneath the layers of ice and blood. I had been wrong. The night I ran, the evidence had been irrefutable. A document signed in his hand. A plot to marry a powerful heiress from a rival family to secure an alliance. And a termination order for the useless Omega, who had been merely a placeholder in his bed. I had run until my lungs burned. I had run across the border, changed my name, and hidden in the quiet anonymity of the suburbs. And then, 2 months later, I found out I was pregnant. Raising twins alone as a runaway Omega wasn't easy. Suppressants were expensive, especially the high-grade ones needed to mask the scent of an Omega who had once belonged to a high-ranking Alpha. I worked odd jobs, cleaning offices, washing dishes, anything that kept cash in hand and my head down. But I was tired, so incredibly tired. Leo tugged on my sleeve. "Mama, the map says the pharmacy is that way, the big building." I looked up, my stomach dropped. It wasn't just a pharmacy, it was a specialized medical center attached to the private hospital, owned by the Moretti syndicate. It was the only place within 100 miles that stocked the specific rare blood stabilizer Leo needed for his condition. Without it, his immune system would attack his own organs. There was no other choice. I had walked for 3 hours, changing buses and taxis twice to throw off any potential trail. I looked at my sons, my secret heirs who had their father's jawline, their father's eyes, and their father's stubborn streak. "Stay close to me," I commanded, my voice trembling, despite my best efforts to sound steady. "Do not look at anyone. Do not talk to anyone. Put your hoods up." They obeyed instantly. They knew the drill. We were ghosts. We didn't exist. We crossed the street, the rain drumming a frantic rhythm against my umbrella. As we entered the glass doors of the medical center, the temperature dropped. The air inside smelled of antiseptic and, faintly beneath it, the sharp, metallic tang of alpha pheromones. Not his scent. Just the generic smell of power and authority that clung to these buildings. I kept my head down, letting my wet, messy hair curtain my face. I approached the pharmacy counter. The beta pharmacist looked bored, chewing gum. "I need a refill of hemostat," I whispered, sliding the crumpled prescription paper across the counter. "For my brother." The pharmacist looked at the paper, then at me. He didn't care. He just wanted his shift to end. He turned around to fetch the medication. I exhaled a breath. I felt like I'd been holding for 4 years. "Just get the pills," I told myself. "Get the pills and get out." I felt a small hand slip into mine. It was Leo. He squeezed tight. "Mama," he whispered, his voice barely audible. "The man at the door? He smells like smoke." My blood froze. "Don't look, Leo." But the damage was done. The mention of smoke triggered a memory I had tried to bury. Luca's scent, it wasn't just smoke. It was burning wood and rich bourbon. A scent that used to make my knees weak and my heart race. I risked a glance at the revolving glass doors. Two men in black suits had just entered. They were massive, with earpieces and bulges under their jackets that were definitely not just phones. Bodyguards. I quickly turned away, pulling the boys closer to the counter, hiding behind a display of Band-Aids. Please don't let it be him. Please, God. Anyone but him. The pharmacist returned with the bottle. That'll be 300 credits. I fumbled with my wallet, my fingers shaking so badly I nearly dropped the coins on the floor. The sound of the coins clinking against the counter felt like a gunshot in the quiet pharmacy. I paid, grabbed the bottle, and shoved it into my pocket. "Let's go," I hissed at the boys, gripping their hands so hard I was probably hurting them. "Now!" We moved toward the exit, but as we approached, the two bodyguards stepped aside, clearing the path. Not for us, for someone behind us. The atmosphere in the lobby changed instantly. The air grew heavy, pressurized, like the moments before a storm breaks. The scent hit me then, a wave of dominance so potent it made me dizzy. Burning wood, bourbon, and a hint of gunpowder. Luca. My instincts screamed at me to run, but my body locked up. I was an Omega in the presence of a powerful Alpha. My biology betrayed me even before my mind could catch up. The suppressants I had taken that morning felt useless against the sheer force of his presence. I tried to shuffle past the bodyguards, keeping my head low, aiming for the sliding glass doors that led to the rainy street. "Excuse me," I murmured, my voice cracking. "Wait," a deep, velvety voice commanded. It wasn't a request, it was an order. The voice vibrated in my chest, sinking into my bones. It was deeper than I remembered, colder, harder. I ignored it. I pulled the boys faster, almost there. Just 2 more steps. "Stop him," the voice said. One of the massive bodyguards stepped in front of me, blocking the exit. I crashed into his chest, bouncing back. I was trapped, slowly, terrified. I forced myself to look up. He was standing by the pharmacy counter, waiting for his own prescription. He was taller than I remembered, broader. His black suit was tailored to perfection, hugging muscles that had only gotten harder over the years. His hair was slicked back, exposing sharp, angular features that were terrifyingly beautiful. He looked like a king who bathed in blood, and then he turned. His eyes, dark as the void, swept over the room, dismissing the bodyguards, dismissing the pharmacist, dismissing my children, and then they landed on me. Time stopped. I saw the pupils dilate. I saw the shock ripple through his body, stiffening his posture. He took a step forward, the smell of his pheromones intensifying, suffocating me. "Julian?" The name fell from his lips like a curse. It was the first time he had said my name in 4 years. I couldn't breathe. I stared at him, my eyes wide, my face pale. He was looking at a ghost. I knew I looked different, thinner, worn out, pale from hiding. But there was no denying it. "Let me go," I managed to choke out, my voice barely a whisper. Luca ignored my plea. He took another step, closing the distance between us. The heat radiating from his body was immense. "Julian," he said again, this time louder, his voice laced with a dangerous edge of disbelief. "You are dead." "I am not," I said, clutching Leo and Liam tighter. The boys were trembling, sensing the predator in front of them. "I buried your memory," Luca growled, his eyes roaming over my face, taking in every detail. "I burned everything you left behind. I've spent 4 years hunting for your body." My heart stopped. "He hunted for me?" "Well, you failed," I said, finding a spark of defiance buried under layers of fear. "I am alive, and I am leaving." I tried to push past him, to run back into the hospital corridor, but he moved with the speed of a viper. His hand shot out, gripping my wrist. His fingers were like iron manacles, hot and possessive. The contact sent an electric shock through my system. My Omega instincts, which had been dormant for so long, suddenly flared to life. My Alpha, my body screamed. "He is here." "No," Luca snarled, pulling me closer. "You're not going anywhere. You have some explaining to do." His grip on my wrist tightened, bruising me. I winced in pain. "Let go of my mama." A small, high-pitched voice cut through the tension like a knife. Luca froze. He looked down. Leo had let go of my hand. He was standing in front of me, his small fists clenched at his sides, glaring up at the giant Mafia Boss. He wasn't scared. He was furious. Leo looked exactly like a miniature version of Luca. The same dark, intense eyes, the same jawline, the same stubborn frown. Luca stared at the boy. The color drained from his face. Then Liam stepped up beside his brother, looking at Luca with wide, curious eyes. He had the same eyes, too. Luca's gaze shifted from the boys to me, then back to the boys. He did the math. 4 years, 2 boys. What? He breathed, his voice trembling with an emotion I had never heard from him before. Is the meaning of this? The silence that followed was deafening. It stretched, thin and tense, like a wire about to snap. The rain drummed against the glass doors of the pharmacy, but the sound seemed miles away. Luca's hand was still clamped around my wrist, burning hot, but his attention was entirely consumed by the 3-year-old glaring at him. Who? Luca asked again, his voice dropping to a dangerously low register. Are they? I swallowed the lump in my throat. My mind was racing, calculating escape routes, but there was nowhere to go. He was blocking the door. His men were at his back. We were trapped in a fishbowl with a shark. They are nobody, I lied, pulling my arm, trying to break his hold. Just let us go, Luca. Please, don't lie to me, he snapped, his eyes flashing red at the edges. The pheromones in the room spiked again, this time laced with aggression. I know your scent, Julian. I know it better than my own. And these children, he knelt down then. The ruthless Don, the killer, the monster of the city, knelt on one knee until he was eye to eye with Leo. It was a surreal sight, a predator bowing to a cub. Leo didn't flinch. He held his ground, puffing out his small chest. You are hurting him, Leo said, pointing a tiny finger at me. If you don't let go, I'll make you sorry. Luca blinked. A look of genuine confusion crossed his face, followed quickly by something that looked suspiciously like amusement. The corner of his mouth twitched. You will make me sorry? Luca asked, tilting his head. And how do you plan to do that, little one? Leo looked at his brother. Liam shrugged, then reached into his pocket and pulled out a small plastic toy car. We'll run over your toes, Liam said innocently. For a split second, the mask of the Mafia King slipped. A huff of laughter escaped him, surprised, startled laughter, but it vanished instantly, replaced by a cold, calculating hardness. He looked at Liam. He looked at Leo. He saw the shape of their noses, the color of their skin, the unruly texture of their hair. They were his. Every single cell of their bodies was a reflection of his own. Luca stood up slowly. The movement was fluid, predatory. When he turned his gaze back to me, the amusement was gone. There was only a burning, possessive intensity that made my knees weak. Is that why you ran? He demanded, stepping into my personal space, crowding me against the cold wall of the pharmacy counter. Because you were pregnant. Did you think I would hurt my own child? I didn't know, I cried, tears finally spilling over my lashes. The stress of the day, the fear, the exhaustion. It all broke at once. I found out after I left. I read the letter, Luca. I saw the order to have me removed once the alliance was secured. I thought you would kill us. Luca's face went blank. Letter? What letter? The one from your uncle, the one with your signature. Luca stared at me. He looked genuinely baffled. My uncle? Antonio? He told me I was just a broodmare. I sobbed, the memories washing over me like a dark tide. He told me you were getting married to the vital girl, and that I had to be disposed of so I wouldn't be a liability. Luca's grip on my wrist loosened, but he didn't let go. He took a deep breath, inhaling my scent. I felt a wave of nausea, or perhaps it was just the sheer overwhelming nature of his presence. He smelled so good. It made me angry. How could he smell so good when he had ruined my life? There is no alliance with the Vitals, Luca said slowly, his voice rough. I destroyed the Vital family 3 years ago. I wiped them off the map because they tried to kidnap me. I froze. What? And I certainly never signed an order to kill you, Luca continued, his eyes narrowing as he pieced the puzzle together. Antonio, my uncle. His voice dropped to a whisper, filled with venom. He was the one who told me you had run away with a lover. He showed me fake bank transfers. He told me you betrayed me. He lied, I whispered, the realization hitting me like a physical blow. He played us both. Luca cursed, a string of foul Italian words that would have made a sailor blush. He ran a hand through his hair, looking suddenly tired. The tension in his shoulders didn't drop, but it shifted. It was no longer directed at me. He stole 4 years from me, Luca growled, looking at the boys again. He stole 4 years from them. He reached out, hesitantly, as if to touch Leo's cheek. Leo flinched away, hiding behind my leg. "It is okay," I whispered to my son, stroking his hair. He won't hurt us." I hoped I was telling the truth. I looked up at Luca. "You won't, right?" Luca looked at me, his expression unreadable. "Hurt you, Julian. Do you have any idea what I have done to find you?" He stepped closer, bringing his face inches from mine. I could feel the heat radiating from him, the raw power of his alpha aura. "I burned cities," he whispered, his lips brushing against my ear. "I turned the underworld upside down. I have killed men for just saying your name in the wrong context." And now, his hand moved from my wrist to my waist, pulling me flush against him. The contact was electric. My body remembered this. The safety, the heat, the possessiveness. My Omega instincts were screaming at me to submit, to bare my neck, to let him claim me again. "But I can't just let you walk away," Luca said, his voice darkening. "Not again. You have my children. You have my scent. You belong to me, Julian. Let us go," I begged, pushing against his chest. But it was like pushing a mountain. "You have your life. I have mine. They are happy. We are safe." "Safe," Luca laughed, a cold, harsh sound. "You are living in cheap motels, working yourself to death to buy suppressants that are rotting your organs from the inside out. I can smell the sickness on you, Julian. I can smell the exhaustion." I hadn't realized he could tell. I hadn't realized the suppressants were making me smell sick. "You are coming home," he stated simply, as if it were the only logical conclusion. "I won't go back to that cage," I said fiercely, lifting my chin. "I won't be your pet again." Luca pulled back to look at me. He studied my face, his eyes tracing the lines of exhaustion and defiance. He saw the fear, yes, but he also saw the strength that had kept his children alive and safe for 4 years alone. "You were never a pet," he said softly. The anger in his voice evaporated, replaced by a strange tenderness that terrified me more than his rage. "You were the only thing that kept me human, and I spent 4 years destroying myself because I thought I lost you." He looked down at the twins, who were watching us with wide, confused eyes. "They need a father," Luca said. "And you need a pack. You are an Omega, Julian. You can't survive out here alone forever. It is a miracle you haven't been claimed by someone else, because I made sure they didn't," I snapped. "Because I stayed hidden, and yet," Luca murmured, leaning in, his nose tracing the line of my jaw, inhaling deeply, "here you are. Back in my territory." I shivered as his breath ghosted over my scent gland. The sensitive skin on my neck prickled. "Do you feel that?" he whispered. "The pull? It is still there. It never went away." I did feel it. The chemistry between us was like a gravity well. It was pulling me in, making me want to lean into him, to let him take the weight of the world off my shoulders. But I couldn't. I couldn't trust him, not with my life, and certainly not with my children's lives. "Please," I whispered, tears streaming down my face again. "Just let me go to my motel. I'll leave the city tonight, I swear." "You'll never see us again," Luca stiffened. He pulled back, his eyes hardening. "No," he said. He picked up Leo before the boy could react. Leo gasped, kicking his legs, but Luca held him securely, one arm supporting him as if he had done it 1,000 times. "Put him down," I screamed, panic rising. Luca grabbed my wrist with his other hand. "Liam, hold my hand." I looked down in horror to see Liam reaching out, eyes wide, fascinated by the giant alpha. To my shock, Liam took Luca's hand. "Liam, no!" I cried. "He is fine," Luca said, his voice commanding, dripping with alpha authority. "We are going home, and if you try to run, Julian, I will chain you to my bed until you realize that there is nowhere on this earth you are safer than with me." He dragged me toward the exit, the bodyguards opening the doors for us. The rain had stopped, but the air outside was cold and sharp. "You are making a mistake," I sobbed, digging my heels into the floor. "The mistake was letting you go in the first place. Luca replied without looking back. He ushered us into a black SUV that was idling at the curb. The interior was pristine, smelling of expensive leather and Luca's distinct cologne. He strapped Leo into a seatbelt with a surprising gentleness, then turned to me. I stood by the open door, shivering in the cool air, looking at the life I had built. A life of fear and poverty, but a life of freedom slipping away. "Get in," Luca commanded. I looked at my children. Leo was staring at Luca with a mix of fear and wonder. Liam was already touching the buttons on the armrest. I had no choice. I was outmatched, outpowered. I climbed into the car, the leather cold against my legs. Luca slid in next to me, the door closing with a heavy thud that sounded like a coffin lid sealing. The car started moving. "Where are we going?" I asked, my voice hollow. "Home," Luca said. He reached over and took my hand in his. His grip was firm, unbreakable, but this time he didn't squeeze. He interlaced our fingers. "You are going to meet the rest of the family," he added, a dark smirk playing on his lips. "And then, we are going to have a very long talk about the twins." I looked out the window as the city lights blurred past. I was back in his world. The nightmare was over. But the real terror was just beginning. The Moretti estate wasn't just a house. It was a fortress carved from marble and ambition. As the black SUV crunched over the gravel driveway, the imposing iron gates parted with a groan, revealing a structure that loomed against the stormy sky like a predator waiting to pounce. I hadn't been back here in 4 years yet. My body remembered every inch of it. The manicured hedges, the towering fountain of Poseidon, the windows that glowed like eyes in the dying light. It smelled of old money, gun oil, and the distinct, metallic tang of power. The car stopped at the grand entrance. Before the driver could open the door, Luca was already out. He moved with terrifying speed, opening the rear door and reaching in to unclip Leo. My son, usually so fierce and vocal, sat frozen in Luca's arms, his eyes wide as he took in the giant alpha holding him. "Come," Luca said to me, extending a free hand. It wasn't an invitation, it was a command. I climbed out, clutching Liam's hand so hard his knuckles turned white. "Don't touch anything," I whispered to Liam, my voice trembling. "And don't look at the guards." We were ushered into the foyer. It was cavernous, with a ceiling that disappeared into shadows, and a crystal chandelier that cast fractured light over the polished floor. A line of servants stood waiting, heads bowed, silent as statues. "Prepare the east wing," Luca barked, his voice echoing off the walls. "And send for the doctor. I want the children checked immediately. Also, bring up the suppressants, the pure kind. Not the synthetic street trash he's been taking." He didn't look at me when he said it, but the shame burned my cheeks anyway. He could smell the cheap chemicals in my blood. He knew I had been poisoning myself just to stay hidden. "I can take them to a hotel," I said, my voice sounding small in the vast room. "You don't have to do this." Luca finally looked down at me. He shifted Leo to one hip, his large hand engulfing my son's small back. "You think I would let my heirs sleep in a hotel? A hotel that I don't own, where I can't guarantee their safety." He stepped closer, the scent of burning wood enveloping me. "You are home, Julian. Stop fighting it. I don't belong here," I argued, though the fight was draining out of me. "I'm just the mistake you made 4 years ago, the liability." Luca's eyes darkened. He turned to the servants. "Leave us?" The staff vanished instantly, melting into the shadows of the corridors. It was just the 4 of us in the echoing hall. Leo wriggled in Luca's grip, wanting down. Reluctantly, Luca set him on the floor. Leo immediately ran to me, grabbing my leg, but he didn't hide. He looked up at Luca with a mixture of fear and curiosity. "Mama?" Leo asked. "Is he the bad man from the stories?" I froze. I had never told them about their father. I had told them stories about bad men in general, stories to warn them about strangers. I knelt down, wrapping my arms around both boys. "He's complicated, Leo. I'm not the villain in this story, Julian," Luca said, his voice surprisingly quiet. "Though I suppose I have no one to blame but myself for you thinking that." He walked over to a heavy wooden table against the wall and poured himself a drink from a crystal decanter. The liquid was amber, catching the light. He didn't offer me one. He just stared at it for a long moment. Antonio, Luca said, the name rolling off his tongue like ash. My uncle. He was the one who showed me the bank transfers. He was the one who told me you had taken 5 million credits and a necklace passed down from my grandmother to run away with your lover. I never took any money, I whispered, and I never had a lover. Luca turned, leaning back against the table, swirling the drink. I know. Now that I see you, I see the way you live, the fear in your eyes. You didn't run to a lover, Julian. You ran because you thought I was going to kill you. He said you ordered it, I said, tears stinging my eyes. He said the marriage to the Vital girl was the only way to secure the alliance, and that I was expendable, that I was just a vessel for the bloodline. Luca slammed his glass down on the table. The sound made the boys jump. There was no marriage. Luca roared, his alpha pheromones exploding outward, filling the room with invisible pressure. The Vitals were enemies. I spent years hunting them down because I thought they had taken you. I destroyed their empire, city by city, looking for a body that wasn't even there. He started pacing, a caged tiger. Antonio played me. He played us both. He wanted the twins dead because they are the true heirs. With you gone, and me childless, the title would have passed to his branch of the family. The realization settled over me, cold and heavy. My children hadn't just been hidden from their father, they had been hunted by their own family. Why didn't you tell me? Luca asked, stopping in front of me. When you realized you were pregnant, why didn't you come to me? Even if you thought I was a monster, didn't you think I deserved to know? I was scared. I cried, standing up, my hands shaking. I was 20 years old, Luca. I was an Omega with no family, no money, and the most powerful mafia don in the country wanted me dead, or so I thought. What was I supposed to do? Walk into your office and say, "Hey, sorry for running away, but I'm having your babies." Luca stared at me, his chest heaving. Slowly, the red haze of rage faded from his eyes, replaced by a deep, aching sorrow. "No," he said softly. "I suppose you wouldn't." He reached out, his hand hovering near my cheek, but he didn't touch me. He seemed afraid I would flinch. I didn't. I was too tired to flinch. "I missed you," he whispered. The confession hung in the air, heavier than the marble columns surrounding us. Every day, every night. I filled this house with people, with noise, with anything to stop the silence from driving me mad, but it never worked. My heart cracked. I remembered the lonely nights in my small apartments, staring at the rain, wondering what he was doing, wondering if he ever thought of me. "I missed you too," I admitted, the truth slipping out before I could stop it. "But I can't just pick up where we left off, Luca. I'm not the same boy you bought 4 years ago. I have scars now. I have responsibilities." "I know," Luca said, his gaze dropping to the twins, who were watching him with wide eyes. "And I intend to spend the rest of my life fixing every single one of those scars, starting with tonight." He straightened his jacket, his posture shifting from vulnerable lover back to Mafia King. "Go upstairs," he said. "The doctor is waiting. The boys need to be checked, and you need to sleep in a real bed, not a mattress on the floor." "I am not sleeping in your room," I said stubbornly. Luca's lips twitched. "I didn't ask you to. The room next to yours has been converted into a nursery for the boys. Your room is the blue room. It's connected to mine, but the door is locked from your side." He walked past me, his shoulder brushing against mine. The contact sent a jolt of electricity through my body. "Rest, Julian," he said, his voice low. "Because tomorrow we are going to war." I thought sleep would be impossible. My mind was racing with thoughts of escape, of the danger my children were in, of the man down the hall. But the bed was softer than clouds. The sheets smelled of lavender and safety, and for the first time in 4 years, I didn't have to keep one eye open for danger. Exhaustion dragged me down into a dark, dreamless sleep. I woke up to the sensation of burning. It wasn't pain, exactly. It was a deep, throbbing ache that started in my lower belly and radiated outward, turning my blood to molten lava. I gasped, sitting up, the room spinning around me. Heat, my heat. It wasn't due for another 2 weeks, but stress could do strange things to an Omega's body. The stress of the capture, the flight, the confrontation with Luca, and the sudden cessation of the cheap suppressants I had been pumping into my system. My body was crashing, rebounding hard. I could smell myself. The scent of white tea and rain, thick and sweet, filling the room. It was the scent of fertility of need. It was a scent that would drive any alpha in the vicinity into a frenzy. I scrambled out of bed, stumbling to the door. I had to lock it. I had to find a real suppressant. I reached for the handle, but the door flew open before I could touch it. Luca stood there. He looked wild. His tie was loose, his shirt unbuttoned at the top, his eyes glowing with a predatory, feral light. He had smelled it from down the hall. "Julian," he growled, his voice distorted by the animalistic need clawing at him. "Stay back," I warned, backing away, though my legs felt like jelly. "Don't come in. You're in heat," he said, stepping into the room and kicking the door shut behind him. The lock clicked with a terrifying finality. "I can smell you. Gods, Julian, you smell intoxicating." "It is a reaction," I gasped, clutching the wall for support as a wave of heat rolled over me. "The suppressants. I stopped taking them. I need a doctor, Luca." "I don't need this. You need an alpha," he corrected, his voice dropping to a dark, seductive purr. He crossed the room in 2 long strides, grabbing my arms and pulling me against him. His body was burning hot, mirroring my own. I could feel the hardness of his muscles. The heavy thud of his heart, the scent of burning wood and bourbon, crashed over me, overwhelming my senses. My Omega biology screamed in relief. "Alpha. Safety, mate. No," I whispered, pushing weakly at his chest. "You'll just use me, like a contract." Luca froze. He looked down at me, his eyes searching my face. He saw the fear, yes, but he also saw the desperate need. "I am not the same man I was 4 years ago," he said, his voice fierce. "I was arrogant. I thought buying you meant owning you. I was wrong." He lifted me up, carrying me effortlessly to the bed and laying me down gently against the pillows. He didn't rip my clothes off. He didn't take me with rough violence. He hovered over me, bracing himself on his arms, trembling with the effort to hold back. "Then prove it," I challenged him, my breath coming in short, ragged gasps. "If you want me, then make me yours. Not because you paid for me, but because you can't live without me." Something in Luca snapped. The restraint he was holding onto shattered. "I can't," he groaned, burying his face in my neck. "I died when you left. I've been a walking corpse for 4 years. He inhaled deeply, his nose tracing the scent gland on my neck. The touch was electric. "Please," I begged, not sure if I was begging him to stop or to continue. The pain of the heat was becoming unbearable. I needed relief. I needed him. "I'm going to mark you again," Luca rasped, his teeth grazing the sensitive skin. "I'm going to cover his mark. I'm going to make sure every alpha in the world knows that you are mine." "Do it," I whispered. He bit down. It wasn't a gentle bite. It was a claim, savage and permanent. The pain mixed with a rush of ecstasy that shattered my vision. I cried out, arching against him as his pheromones flooded my system, soothing the fire, replacing the pain with a golden haze of pleasure and possessiveness. I felt his mark on my neck, throbbing in time with my heartbeat. It was a brand, a tether. We came together in a storm of tangled limbs and desperate kisses. The anger, the misunderstandings, the 4 years of silence. It all melted away until there was nothing left but the friction of skin against skin and the ragged sound of our breathing. For the first time, it wasn't a transaction. It was a union. Hours later, I lay tangled in the sheets, my head resting on Luca's chest. The room was quiet now, save for the sound of the rain against the windows. The scent of our union hung heavy in the air, a mix of white tea and burning wood. Luca was stroking my hair, his fingers moving slowly, methodically. I felt boneless, sated, and terrifyingly vulnerable. "The boys," I whispered, remembering. "Where are the boys?" "Asleep," Luca said, his voice rumbling through his chest. "In the nursery. They have 2 bodyguards stationed outside the door and a nurse inside. They are safer than they have ever been." I nodded, my fingers tracing the scars on his arm. "And now what? You've marked me. You've caught me. What happens to Antonio?" Luca's hand stilled. The air in the room grew cold. "Tonight," Luca said, his voice devoid of emotion, "is the night Antonio pays for his sins." I sat up, the sheet slipping down. "What are you going to do?" "I called a meeting," Luca said, sitting up with me. "The family council. Antonio thinks he has won." He thinks I brought you back just to execute you publicly and secure his position as the new heir. He looked at me, his eyes hard and dark. He is coming to the house. He is coming to watch you die. I shivered. Instead, Luca continued, standing up and walking to the wardrobe. He pulled out a black shirt, tossing it to me. He is going to find you sitting in my chair. He is going to find you wearing my mark. And he is going to find out exactly who the true ruler of this family is. I caught the shirt. You want me to go to the meeting? With you? You are my mate, Julian, Luca said, turning to face me, and the mother of my heirs. You don't hide in the shadows anymore. You stand in the light with me. He walked back to the bed, cupping my face in his hands. He tried to take everything from me, Luca said softly. He tried to take my future, but he failed. Because the future is sleeping in the nursery down the hall. He kissed me, a slow, possessive kiss that promised forever. Get dressed, he whispered against my lips. It's time to show the world that the Moretti family is not just about blood and bullets anymore. It's about us. The doors to the grand hall opened with a heavy boom that silenced the murmurs of the gathered men. 20 heads turned, capos, underbosses, advisors, all dressed in expensive suits, all looking towards the source of the sound. I walked in, flanked by Luca. The room fell dead silent. They stared at me. They looked at the bruising mark on my neck, visible above the collar of the shirt Luca had given me. They looked at the way Luca held my hand, fingers interlaced. At the head of the long table sat Antonio. He was an older man with graying hair and a cruel mouth. He smiled when he saw us, a triumphant, shark-like grin. "Ah, the prodigal son returns," Antonio sneered, standing up. "And look, he brought the little whore back to pay for his sins." Luca's grip on my hand tightened, but he didn't react. He didn't shout. He didn't pull a gun. He simply walked me to the head of the table. He pulled out the chair usually reserved for the Don, the chair Antonio was currently occupying. "Move," Luca said quietly. Antonio laughed. "You have lost your mind, Luca. You bring this trash into our sacred meeting." "He betrayed us. He sold our secrets." "He didn't sell anything," Luca said, his voice calm, terrifyingly calm. "You did." Antonio's smile faltered. "What?" Luca pulled a file from his jacket and threw it onto the table. It skidded across the polished wood and stopped in front of Antonio. "Bank records," Luca said. "The 5 million credits you claimed Julian stole. The transfer went straight to your offshore account. The letter you forged. I had the handwriting analyzed by 3 different experts." The room erupted in whispers. Antonio's face went pale, then rapidly turned a shade of purple. "He's lying," Antonio shouted, pointing a shaking finger at me. "He's manipulating you. Kill him, Luca. Do it now. He's poison to this family." Luca looked at me. He didn't look at Antonio. "Julian," Luca said, "show them." I took a deep breath. I reached into my pocket and pulled out my phone. I pulled up the live feed from the nursery. On the screen, sleeping peacefully in cribs that looked like miniature castles, were Leo and Liam. The capos leaned in, squinting at the screen. Then, the whisper stopped. The resemblance was undeniable. They looked at the screen, then at Luca, then at me. "These," Luca said, his voice booming through the hall, "are the heirs, my sons." The shock in the room was palpable. An alpha heir with legitimate children was unassailable. The power dynamic shifted instantly. Antonio wasn't next in line anymore. He wasn't even a contender. Antonio's eyes bulged. He looked from the phone to Luca, realizing he had lost. He lunged for Luca, pulling a gun from his belt. "I won't let you take it. I built this empire." I moved without thinking. I threw myself in front of Luca, but I wasn't fast enough. Bang! The gunshot was deafening. I flinched, squeezing my eyes shut, waiting for the pain. It didn't come. I opened my eyes. Luca was holding a smoking gun. Antonio was on the floor, a red stain spreading across his chest. He coughed, gasping for air, then lay still. Luca hadn't been shot. Luca had fired. Luca lowered the gun, his chest heaving. He looked at the body of his uncle with cold indifference. Then he looked at me. He dropped the gun and grabbed my shoulders. "Are you hit?" he demanded, his hands frantically checking my chest. "No," I whispered, shaking. I tried to protect you. Luca let out a ragged breath and pulled me against him, burying his face in my hair. The other men in the room, the hardened criminals, stood in silence. They bowed their heads. "We don't need protection anymore, Julian," Luca whispered, so only I could hear. "We have each other." He pulled back, looking down at me. The ruthless killer was gone. In his place was a father, a mate, a man who had found his soul. "Let's go check on our sons," he said. He took my hand. We walked out of the grand hall, leaving the past dead on the floor behind us. The doors closed, sealing the darkness away. We walked toward the nursery, toward the future, and I knew, with a certainty that settled deep into my bones, that I wasn't running anymore. I was home.